Okay, everybody ready to learn how to import sound? In Flash, it's pretty simple. And you can add sound to the buttons. That's one purpose. You can also add music to the background, or there's a variety of things that you can do. I have open right now, you'll notice at the top a file that's titled sound.fla. It is available on my public folder for you. And if we look in the library, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of sounds here. These used to be included with Flash, and for some reason they don't anymore. Okay, I don't know why. They used to include a lot of little interesting library items. They don't. And these are useful for bringing into, to be used for buttons or any number of things. When you select them in the library, you'll notice you see the little sound wave here, representation of what the sound sounds like, looks like. And then you'll see a little button right here, a little arrow. And this allows you to play it so that you can hear it ahead of time. Book drop, breaker switch, brick drops. That's used often for a button. You hear a click, bucket hit. Okay, pretty loud. Let me turn it down just a little bit. Let's drop all the way down to slide latch. That's a good one too. Oops, there we go. Okay. To incorporate sound into your project, you need only do one thing. And it looks like something is already in here. I'm going to go ahead and clear this. Well, you know what? Let me go ahead and play it and see. I wonder if I put something. I did. I added some sound. The reason I can tell is you see the little line across here? It's very subtle above the dot. I made a mistake in here. I shouldn't have put that there. But let me go ahead and delete it. So what I'm going to do is edit timeline, and I want to clear frame. There we go. So it took that away. Now if I test it and play it again, there's nothing. I think the easiest way to show you how to use sound would be to put it inside a button. And you obviously don't want it on the up state or normal state because it will continue to play. You only want it on the over state or on the down state, and that's it. So that it requires the end user's interactivity in some way in order to activate it. Okay? So the best way to do that is to create a simple button, or I'm sorry, to show you here that we do have some additional libraries here that are available for you. So if I can come down here and see where the common libraries, and you'll see that we have buttons. They still do include some features in here that are built in, which are pretty nice. Button assets, button bars. If we go in here, you can see there is a button bar, there is a button bar, gold, different colors, different categories. Here's a, see what the button bar cap looks like. Oh, same one. Did I look at the same one? How about bubble buttons? Let's see what they look like. Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of buttons that they've already built that you're welcome to use and welcome to go in and edit, change, customize. They used to have a lot of stuff in here. They used to include sounds. They used to include all kinds of stuff. Why they don't anymore, I don't know. It wouldn't cost them anything, really. How about some rounded buttons? How about two buttons? Let's see what they have. Classic buttons. These are some arcade buttons. These are pretty elaborate. They're pretty nice. Let me go back under classic buttons. There's some circle buttons. These are simple, but I think very nice. I've used these myself. So let's use one of these. Let's use this one right here. And to use it, you just drag it out on the stage. There it is, just a teeny tiny little button. And you can make it whatever size you want. As soon as you drag it out onto the stage, from the common library, when we look in our library here, you'll notice that it's been added to the library of this project. But it will not be added to the library of this project until you drag it out onto the stage and incorporate it. So if I test and I go to Control and I select Enable Simple Buttons and I roll over, you notice how it enlarges just a little bit, and when I click on it, it reduces. So there is a little change. It's subtle, but it's there. Let me make it a little bit larger so you can actually see what's going on here. Let's deselect Enable Simple Buttons. Let's turn on Free Transform, and I'll just make it bigger. So now that we have a big button here. Control, Enable Simple Buttons. Notice when I roll over it, when you click on it, it reduces in size. Very simple. So I want to go ahead and I want to apply sound to this. It's very easy to do so. Let me turn off Enable Simple Buttons, select the instance of the of the button, or I could go inside my library and I could double click inside here, either one. Just double click, and now I'm inside the button. And we can see when you look at the different states, here's our up state, here's our over state, down state is really the same as the up state, and here's the shape that represents the hit state, the active area. Now the reason that they put a black dot instead of just leaving this is because if this were left empty, this would not be a hit. Does that make sense? You need a solid area to indicate whatever area will activate the button. So that if I removed this and I rolled over this area here, it would not activate the button. It would only be in the little triangle or the little circle area. So to apply, let's decide that we only want sound on the overstate. It can be on both the over and the down, and they can be different sounds if you wish. But I want to put it on the overstate. My recommendation is that you add a new layer, and then on the overstate you insert a keyframe, blank keyframe, because I don't want the sound to be on the upstate, just on the overstate. And we'll name this layer sound, so I know what I'm doing, doing here, sound. And then I come to my library, and let's do the book drop. That's a good one. Let's select again. Okay. Maybe the down state would be better. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. We can do either one. So now all you have to do with this keyframe selected and your library open is you click on the sound you want to apply and just drag it out on the stage. And notice what it does here. You see a little visible representation of that sound on the overstate here. Now on the downstate, I do not want the button because this will continue through here. Let's test it and see. Let's go back to our scene. Let's go to Control, Enable Simple Buttons. So it's only applied to the overstate. That triggers it. Now, if you wish to edit the sound in here, You can only edit it minimally, but you can edit the sound inside Flash. To do so, I need to turn off Enable Simple Buttons, select the button, double click to go inside, select the frame, the overstate, and you'll notice in the Properties panel, with that frame selected, the sound, it'll say book drop. It tells me what sound I've applied. And you'll notice that I have access to all of these others. From here, I can switch. So if I don't want book drop and I want bucket hit instead, I can do that. The other thing that I can do is I can apply an effect. Typically for buttons, you're not going to want to. This is oftentimes used in games, when you're designing games, that we can apply to only the left channel or the right channel, because it does have stereo capabilities. We can fade in and fade out, and again, for a button, for only being a fraction of a second, it doesn't really matter. One of the things we can do is we can edit it from here, though, and this is where you edit it. You click the edit button, and it brings up a little representation. Here's the left channel, here's the right channel. And what you'll notice here is that there is some empty or flat line, dead air here. And if you want to shorten this or abbreviate it, all you have to do is click here and pull it in. And you can test it from here. And watch what happens when I really abbreviate it. See how it's cut it off? That's about the extent to which you can edit in here. There's a couple of more things that you can do, especially if you're going to use the sound as an intro. See these little representations here? These allow you to control the volume. And there's also presets in here to fade in and fade out. So if I click here, it starts with this channel being lower, and then I can click a little button here, and then I can pull that down, and I can do the same here. We'll pull this one down here, and pull this one down here. See how the sound drops? And if I pull it all the way, whoops. I want to try to exaggerate this for you. See how it's clipping part of that off now? And just by clicking and dragging these off, we can remove those. That's all you have to do. And now I click OK, and we're back. And I've clipped it off a little bit, taken off some of that dead sound. You'll notice with some of these in here, the camera is a good one too. Let's replace this with a camera. Where is the camera? Camera.
So are you saying that in CS4 you don't have any of these sound effects?
These sounds came with Flash a long time ago, and I just hung on to them. They used to include other built-in library items, little animated movie clips, and a variety of other things. The only thing they include now are buttons, and that's it. Some built-in buttons. They don't include any sound anymore for the buttons, and I don't know why. It doesn't. I don't think it costs them anything, but they chose to eliminate it, and it was quite a while ago that they eliminated it. But in some of the earliest versions of Flash, also as an instructional tool, I think it's helpful to have some built-in library items so you can go in and deconstruct them. Just as when she was asking, I forget, I can't think of her name offhand, the other day about why you would use movie clips. When do you use them and why? And they would have some interesting library items like these animated fish and some other things, little airplanes and stuff where the propeller goes around and stuff. And you would have all these individual little elements within that library item that would be movie clips that would automatically be animated when you dragged it out on the stage, and it was a pretty good example. They were good examples of why you would use movie clips and how you would use them to comprise a more complex library item. Anyway, yeah.
This particular set of sounds you mentioned are from the public library of?
It's my public library, Kirk Miller, so you have access to all of them. You should. When you go in, I don't know how many of you tried that before to access my, we'll try that right afterwards. And if not, just come up with your flash drive and I'll drag a copy of the file on here and you'll have access to all of these. You'll just have to remember not to throw it away so that you have all those library items. They were free at one time, and why they don't exist anymore, I don't know. So it's not like I grabbed them somewhere and took them. You know, they're just not included anymore. Because I don't know how many of you have Illustrator at home or Photoshop or something that have sample folders to show you what others have done or what possibilities. It's the same thing. You know, so whatever. Let's go to Control, enable simple buttons again. Let's go back over to, so now we have the camera instead. And you could have it on the down state instead. So to do that, go to Control, turn off, enable simple buttons, double click to go inside. Click on this state and drag it down so that it's only on the down state. So as I said, typically you'll only have sound either on the overstate or the down state. Or you can have different ones on both, but remember it adds file size and sound, even though this may be a small little snippet of sound, can add a significant amount of memory to your file. So be careful how you use sound. Let's go back out to scene and Control, enable simple buttons, roll over, nothing but when I click on it. And that can be pretty effective. Now, I would not use too many sounds, and I would be careful and try to exhibit restraint when you use sounds. They're a pretty powerful design tool. I think you will find on websites that use a lot of sound, it can be really annoying. At first, it can be appealing and it can be kind of exciting because it grabs your attention. But if you visit the website for any period of time, sometimes even just simple button sounds can be really annoying. And I find I turn them off. It's just, you know, I just don't want to hear it anymore. There are only a handful of, there's only one game that I played a long time ago that I thought the sounds were designed beautifully, and that was Myst. I don't know if anybody ever played that. And I thought they did an incredible job, and especially the ambient and the background sounds and stuff were just beautifully designed. Because one thing that you have to do with sound in Flash, in games and that sort of thing, is create little small snippets that play in a loop to minimize the file size. You don't want a huge, complete, multi-minute song. It just takes up too much room in your project. And it really is an art to reduce that snippet to, you know, minimize its size, and then when it does play in a loop, you're not aware that it's a loop. It doesn't sound like a loop, because most of the time it does sound like a loop, and you get kind of loopy after a while listening to the loop. You know, I mean, it really is annoying. Okay. So, to edit sound, to combine sounds, to create your own custom sounds, I presume most of you are PC users at home. No? Most of you are Mac? Okay, super. Then the program to use at home would be GarageBand. And you can edit your own sounds. You can save them and export them as AIF files. And those are the file types that you will import into Flash. So let's give that a try. I'm going to go ahead and open GarageBand. And as I said, this is an old version. I should bring my own from home. If this doesn't work the way I had hoped, I will do that. I'll bring my own version and install it from home. It's a little bit, it's the most current version. So I want to see what we have here. If you are on the PC, you will save the sound as a WAV file. And again, you import the WAV or the AIF, and then when you publish your Flash document, it converts it to an MP3 file. Okay, let me see if I can't open up a sound here. This is too old, this version of GarageBand, so I may have to call it quits for today with regard to this, and then see. You know what, I just don't have to. Let me see here. This is too old. I'm not familiar with this old version. Let's see. Control. Well, let me see if I can open one of my sounds here. My song? I don't even know what this is. Let's see what it is. Oh, I already have it open. What am I doing? Let's open another one. Let me go into my some of those files. iTunes music, downloads, no, podcasts, TED Talks. I think I opened one of them. No, it won't let me bring it in. Won't allow you to import MP3 files, so that's no good. Nope, I'm going to have to wait until Thursday to do it. And I have to install my own version of GarageBand. It's more current. It has, I don't know how many of you have GarageBand at home? A few people? Okay. Then you know built into the more current versions of GarageBand, you have also lots of sound effects, soundtracks that you can use. You also have intros and I guess they're outros or whatever they're called. Lots of music that's built into that. Plus, if you have access to your iTunes library, you can bring in those sounds, which are, you know, that music, and you can edit it. I don't think you legally can incorporate that into your project, but whatever.
Modify.
Huh?
Modify.
Yeah, even so, you can't, you're not supposed to. Even just a couple of notes, you're not allowed to. Supposed to pay them royalties if you do that. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to install my own version, you know, a more current version of GarageBand to show you how to import, edit, and then save it, you know, save the file, export it, import that into Flash. So you can create your own little snippets of sound rather than rely on just the ones that they have. And that can be done any number of ways. You can record it, you can use existing sounds, you know, existing music, all sorts of stuff, and have little background snippets that play in your project. And it's as easy as we did here, just taking the sound and dragging it into the background and it will play. And if you want it to play, again, unfortunately I only have, in my library here, are button sounds, and these can be, as I said, really annoying. I don't have anything that's really that interesting. Well, what do we have here? How about keyboard? Latch. Yeah, all of these are just little single sounds. Lock break. I mean, they're really good for buttons. Plastic button. Plastic click. Plastic eject empty. plastic insert, Polaroid shutter, safe tumbler. Trying to find one that would be, how about switch box? No. Switch camera on. Switch push. Well, let's do something here. I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new layer to show you what happens if you introduce the sound onto your stage and just place it there. So I'll create a new layer for it, and we'll go ahead and pull up the library again, and I'll do this. And I just drag it out on the stage, and you'll notice a little representation of it in that frame. Now we'll play it, and it plays. Okay? Even though this is looping, it only plays at once. But if I come back in here, and I select this frame, you'll notice that it says repeat, and I have one time. Here's the event there where I can sync, repeat. I can have this loop, or I can have it repeat just a certain number of times. Let's go back to the repeat, and we'll put in 3 times, and let's test it and see. Okay, so it does play it in rapid succession, so it's not like it takes, and there's a pause, you would have to build that into your sound. But if I just do a loop now, and we play it, annoying. But it will play, however, you know, right now in this one frame, it will play. Right now the sound exceeds 1/20th of a second, but it will play as long as your movie is playing. So it's not contingent on having, if the sound takes 1 second to play, you don't need to have a 20-second or 20-frame movie to play it. It will continue to, as long as this repeats, it will play. If I have a stop action and it plays 1/20th of a second, then let's try that. Let me turn off, yeah, let's go ahead and have loop here, and then let's have this a 5-second, or not 5 frame, let's do a 3 frame. Let's see what happens in 3 frames. Let's click here. Just hit insert frame, that would be F5, and then on frame, let's go ahead and add a new layer, and then on frame 3 here, I want to put a blank keyframe because I'm going to add an action script and put a stop action right here. Bring up actions and type in here stop. Okay, check, no errors, okay, close it. Now let's play. No, see, even though the movie stops at frame 3, the music continues to play. So we'd have to put another action here that tells it to stop. So you would want to put in, instead of repeat or loop, let's do it instead of event. Let's do it start. Okay, let's stop. Let's go back here. Oh, that's why I did that. Let's just say, let's play, repeat. There we go, once. Now let's do it. Okay, so it just plays that one time. So you have to be careful how you use the sound Do you want it to play constantly in a loop, or do you want it to play once and stop? Do you want it to play a few times and stop? It's up to you. And remember, if you want to have hidden elements in your project, that can be fun too, where you can record your own voice or have recordings of someone's voice, and you have an invisible button, and when the person rolls over it, it plays. So it could be a description, it could be some fun little hidden kind of Easter egg that would be incorporated into your project. Does that make sense to everyone, what I'm talking about? You could have a photograph there, and when someone rolls over a particular part of it, it activates the sound by touching the button, an invisible button, and it would play that sound. So it could be music, or it could be your voice, or it could be someone else's voice, or something that maybe adds a description or a fun little thing. Okay. So that's all there is to incorporating sound. To control the quality of the sound, I'm going to look under here first. Let's look under Publish Settings real quick. And down at the bottom of Publish Settings, you'll notice that it says Audio Stream is MP3, 16 kilobits mono. You can have an audio event, an MP3, 16 kilobits per second mono. And you can also set these too, so they can be different. You can use a higher standard, lower standard. You can change the quality. Typically, the default settings are pretty good to set the quality fast so that it loads quickly. If you wish, you can override sound settings and put in your own. Okay. So all of the sound can be controlled from here, just as the default JPEG quality can be established from here. Everybody see where that is? Huh. Flash 8 settings, okay. So that's where sound, the output quality of the sound can be controlled, is in your Publish settings. Where the individual sound can be controlled or edited is that when you select the instance on the timeline, you'll see in the Properties panel the Edit feature. So if I go back to Control, turn off Enable Simple button, so I can actually select the instance of it. Okay. Actually, I have to go in first and select the frame that it's on. And then when you select that frame, you'll notice it says Camera Shutter. And then I can click Edit here. Notice the dead space at the end. If I want to get rid of that dead space, just move it in. It's not a bad thing to do. And then test it. And that's it. Okay? So that's incorporating sound. As I said, on Thursday, we will start interactivity. I will, tomorrow I hope, go ahead and install and hear my own version of GarageBand so that we can show you how to bring in your own sound, whether it be a full-length song, or if you want to record your voice or do whatever in GarageBand, and then export that and then bring it into to Flash. My recommendation would be for sound, if you're going to bring in your own sounds, that you treat it as we did with the photographs. Photoshop is your photo editor, and you save for web, and you do all your editing in Photoshop rather than rely on Flash. Similarly, if you're going to bring in your own sound, I would use GarageBand to control the length, to control the sound quality, to control the volume, to control all those things. And then, because it does a better job of it, and then export, save it as a GarageBand file, and then export it as the AIF file, and then you can import that AIF file into Flash, and it automatically converts it to an MP3 file when it publishes your Flash document. And it does a pretty good job of it. Okay? Okie doke. So the remainder of today, we have a lot of time, a little over 2 hours, to work on your banner ad. I would very much like it to be done by the end of the week. If it's not the end of the world. We have more time, but that's my goal. And I know I haven't returned the projects, the ones that have been handed in from that you save for web. I'll get those done, I hope, this week and get them out to you. If you turned it in and you did it correctly, you got full points, so it's not a big deal. Maybe that's why I've been kind of negligent in getting them done. Huh? The very first one, I told everybody it was the optimized project, to just get it, get any image that's appropriate, huh? And email it, yeah. So if you didn't do that, you can do that too, and it's not counted later or anything. It's not a big deal. It was more important. It was make sure that you understood the basics in Photoshop to use that Save for Web feature, and to make sure that it was optimized correctly. Okay? Okie doke.
This one you want us to email to you also?
What's that?
The banner one, you want us to email to you also?
Yeah, email the SWF file to me. When you're done with a banner ad, make sure that, you'll save your FLA file. That's your original, just like your PSD file is your original Photoshop file. And then when you publish the Flash file, the SWF file is the one that goes up on the web, and that's also the one that you can attach to your email and you send to me. I don't need the FLA file, just the SWF file. Okay? Okay. What I want to do is show you how to animate some type, and I'll show you the zoom effect here. Safari quit. Okay, ignore it. Okay, so everybody ready? This would be a typical thing that you could do. The zoom effect will be, it will look like the type is coming out of behind you or out of nowhere and zooming into place. So how would you do that? The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select some type and create the word zoom. Centered would be good, and I'll just click right in the middle here and I'll type zoom. Let's make it all caps, Z-O-O-M. And I'm going to highlight it, and I don't like Llewellyn for that. I think a better typeface would be, let's see. No, not Herculaneum. A nice big bold one. Impact would be a good one. There we go. Zoom. And I'm going to boost it up a little bit like so. Something that I haven't shown you yet that I was waiting until we did the interactive part are some of the align features that you have in here, and they can be really useful. So for example, let me go to Windows and select the align or Command K, and I can have this aligned to the stage, and if I want it absolutely centered so that it's aligned along the vertical, and then we can have this aligned along the horizontal, so this is absolutely in the middle. You don't have to measure. You can use the align tool. And this will be useful for aligning buttons, for aligning elements along, and to making sure that they're distributed equally so you don't have to actually measure the distance between them and that sort of thing. That can work really nice. The other thing that I need to do is I need to make sure that my library is visible here, because in order to edit this type, it needs to be, in order to animate the type, it needs to be a what? It needs to be some sort of symbol, doesn't it? Especially if I'm going to have it fade in or apply a tween to it or whatever, it needs to be it needs to be animated. I mean, it needs to be a symbol in order to animate it in that fashion. So, and I also want the letters to zoom to come in individually. Right now, this is a block of text. So the first thing that I need to do is to break apart so I have individual letters. So Command B for break apart. And now I have 4 separate pieces of text. Okay? Now, I need to turn each one of these into a symbol. So that's what I'll do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to modify, convert to symbol. And let's name it appropriately Z. I'm just going to make this a graphic symbol. There we go. We'll select the O, and I'll do the same. Modify, convert to symbol, and we will name it O. Now, I don't need 2 O's in my library, do I? So I can take this one, and I can delete it. And I can take this one, since it's an instance, and I can copy it, or I can drag another one onto stage from here. Right? The easiest way is to copy it, to select it, click and drag, and as I drag, hold down the Option key. That makes a copy of it. And then I can use my arrow keys to nudge it into place. That looks pretty close where it should be. Okay? Now I select the M, and I go to Modify, and I convert to symbol, and we'll name it M. So I have my library items. This is how I want my zoom effect to look at the very end. And sometimes you will build the end first and establish it, and then you'll work backwards to determine how you want the beginning to look. This is how I want the end to look. Now remember, if we apply a tween to this, each one of these has to be on a separate layer, doesn't it? You can only have 1 tween per layer. I'll have this, I'm videotaping this, but I had forgotten to show you how to do this zoom effect. So what I did here is I created some text, a block of text. I used B for break, Command B for break apart, so I had individual letter forms. And then I converted each of these to a symbol so that I could apply a motion tween to each of these. That's where I'm at the moment. Something else I showed everybody too, and we'll use this more later on, is the Align panel in order to use Align to Stage, and we can select absolute center, based on vertical and horizontal and things like that. It works pretty nice, and we can also distribute these nicely as well. So that's where I'm at with this. What I want to do now, in order to animate each of these letter forms, is they have to be on their own layer. So I'll select them all, and now what I can do is I can go to Modify, and I can go to Timeline, and I can select Distribute to Layers. It's a pretty interesting tool. And what this will do is it'll take each one of these letters, leave it intact on stage, but it will put each one on its own layer. So now I can, this is how I want the video or the project to look like when I'm done, and I have to decide how long do I want this to take. I'll use maybe the 1 or 2 second rule. So this is where it looks like at the beginning, but I want it to look like the same down here, right? So I can select these just by clicking and dragging, and then I can insert timeline keyframe. So now I've taken my first and I've copied it to the very end. Now I can go back here and I can take each one of these one at a time, and I can change the size, I can change the alpha, I can change all sorts of features to them. I can have them spin around. I can have, you know, change colors over time, do whatever I want, and animate them. Well, I'm going to change the size of each of these first, and I'll also change the alpha so they look like they're coming in from out of nowhere. Also, for those of you who had stepped out a moment, the other thing that I did too when I converted to symbol is that you don't need two O symbols, you only need one. So when I converted one to a symbol, I just deleted the other one and I have just one. Right, because in instance I can have as many copies of this on the stage as I need. Okay, so I have the end of my movie done, and actually this layer, when I distributed to layers, it left me an extra layer. I don't need that. I could also leave it for actions, or I can for labels or sound or all sorts of stuff, or if I don't need it, we can get rid of it. But it's just an empty layer right now. So let's start with the first keyframe for Z. And the easiest way to enlarge this would to bring in my transform. And I'm going to go ahead and type in maybe 800%, make sure that proportions are constrained. So it's huge, right? Let's try 900 and see what I get here. That's no good. I don't know why I did that. Let me try again. Yeah, that's good. So I'll go with that. Oh, I know what I want to do too. I'm going to undo that, and undo that, and undo that, and undo that, and bring it back. I want them, I'm going to select all of these here, and at this point in time, I want all of these to look like they're being shot from a gun, so they're coming from the same place, not separate. I want them to look like they're being moved from the central location. And that would be another reason why you would want a line here. With the first keyframe selected, I can now go ahead and, again, this is to stage, which is just fine, and I can select a line, and if I click this one here, align to horizontal center, notice that they're all perfectly on top of one another now. This can also be frustrating when you think you're selecting the line to center and it selects them all and overlaps them, and you say, no, that's not what I wanted. I want them all to be evenly distributed in the middle. But this is what I want at this point in time.
And what happens if the last layer is the one on top?
This is the one, the M is on top.
Oh, so if you want the Z to be on top.
Yeah, I would have to move it up. I would have to change the order. I can do that. Why not? Let's drag this one down. Let's move this one up. Okay. If I want to see what I'm doing a little bit better, I can go ahead and turn these off. Okay, so you can see what's going on. So let's go ahead and take this one now, and let's go back to transform, and I'll change this again to 900%. That was a nice big number. So it's just huge. And at the same time, we can go ahead and select on stage, and because it is a symbol, I can go ahead and change the alpha and maybe leave it, I'm going to use 10%, because this happens so quickly. To come from from 0 alpha looks some sort of strange sometimes. Just to have a little bit of it appear, and it's just a very, very subtle part, be fine. So now I can go ahead and lock this one, and I can turn it off, and let's turn this one back on, and we'll work on the next one. Now we have our O, and again, select it on stage, select alpha, and that will be 10%, and we'll repeat what we did before. I want it to be 900%. So it's a nice big element. So it appears to come out of nowhere. I'm done with that one, so I'll lock it, I'll turn it off, and we'll move on to the next O. Okay, no, I don't want that one to be invisible. There we go. So we'll go ahead and we'll select this one, make it 900%. Let's select it, change the alpha, so it's 10%, and I'm done with that one. So we lock it, prevent it, turn this one back on. Now we have the M. Select the alpha, 10%. Select the size, 900%. What size you use is up to you. You know, what alpha, if you want to also change the color over time, if you also want it to spin over time, or do whatever you want it to do. But we've gone ahead now, and we've created our initial keyframe and our end, and now we're ready to apply tweens. So now we can go ahead and I can unlock these, and we can select them all, I suppose. Now we can go ahead and select tween, and we want a motion tween, correct? Now this sort of works, but it doesn't exactly. So it doesn't have exactly the effect that I'm going for, but it does work. So let's go ahead and test it since I'm at a good stage. I'll go ahead and hit Command, return, and it's saving it, and that hopefully doesn't crash. Now it zooms in. Now at the end, you'll notice it immediately repeats, and I will have it pause in the end. And we'll do that by adding frames. So it will hold for a second, 2 seconds, or if you only want it to play once, then you could put a stop action at the very end, and it would play and just stop, and you would get the same effect. So what if I want this to be staggered? I think it would be more effective if the Z came on, then the O, then another O, then the M, and then they either ended at the same time or they staggered when they ended. You could do the same thing. Well, let's think about that. What do you want to do? The Z starts, so that's okay. I'll leave that one alone. The O, I want it to come maybe 5 frames later. So I'll click here, then click again, and then drag and move it. You'll notice that this becomes a blank keyframe, and it doesn't enter until 5 frames later. The same thing I want to happen to the next O, only I want it to be staggered another 5 frames. So I'll click, release the mouse, click again, and then drag. So now this one doesn't enter the stage until frame 10. And now I'll do the same with the next, only now it will enter the stage or appear on frame 15. Does that make sense? You can stagger these any way you like, and you can, I would recommend playing with it and seeing how it works. Now they all end up at the same place at the same time. If I want to stagger that, I would do the same at the other end. So maybe the Z start, is first, so I'd have to come in maybe 15 frames here and move this back so that it ends first, and then this one ends second, so this would be staggered in 10 frames and 5 and so forth. So we'll see. Let's just test it as we do it, and when you reach a point where it looks good to you, then fine. But I encourage you to keep tweaking it and seeing what happens. Now I kind of think that it should be staggered even more. Okay, but you begin to see that it's a little different now. They aren't all appearing at once. So all I have to do is let's stagger this over 10, and then another 20, and then 30. And I might have to, obviously increase the length of this, so I'll just select all of these, and let's then click and drag, and then just move it out. Probably more than that, but this got in the way. I'll just move it to 80 just for the heck of it. So let's test it again. Now, part of the effect that this is having is that this will remain as is. This one has to come back 30 frames. So I'm at 80, so this one needs to come back to 50. Now, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and remove the motion tween from here so it's none. Okay. And then this one needs to come back to frame 60, correct? Okay, so I'll take this one. So I click, release the mouse, click, and move it back to 60. I have a broken tween here, not a big deal, just select it, select none, because nothing is happening there. I just want populated frames is all. And then this one, click, move it into 70, select a frame in here, remove the tween, and let's test it again and see the effect that I have. See how it's changing a little bit because now the ends are staggered. And again, if you want them staggered even more, we can do that.
The second seems to make it unfit.
Because I changed the order of these. This O needs to be up here. Now let's take this one back. Let's move this one forward. And then this one goes back. And then this one goes forward. Now let's play it again. Let's see what we get. Okay, that's how I fixed it. I moved the Z, I transformed the Z and the M, but I didn't do the O's. Let's stagger this even more. So that there's a second difference between them and see what we get. 20, 40, right? And then 60. Let's see what this does, just for the heck of it. That's better. That looks pretty good. And then they kind of speed up at the end. But that's the zoom effect. And that's, you know, think about it when you're animating it. What do you want it to do? How long do you want it to take? And to a large extent, it was guessing. It was starting in the right direction, but then we tinkered with it afterwards and staggered it, and then to slow it down or to speed it up, you know, we moved the keyframes along the timeline and added frames as needed. Notice at the end, these are all populated frames so that they all are there at the very end. And again, if I want this to stop at the very end, I can put it at the very end at frame 80 here. I'll make this my action layer. A for actions. I would insert a blank keyframe here and I would put a stop action here, and then it would just stop. If you wanted this to repeat again and again and again, then probably what I would do is I would come down and you'd have to ask yourself first, well, how long do I want this to pause? Do I want it to pause 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds? Okay, if I'm at 20 frames per second, then this would be 1. Okay, this is 2. So let's say, and then 40, this would be 3 seconds. So I'll select all of these, and I'll just hit F5. Okay, now this one, I need to, now at this point, see, this is similar to what I had done before. It just paused. There is no tween there. So select none. Now we can go ahead and replay it. Pauses for 3 seconds, and then it will loop again. If I only wanted to play once, there would be no need for those extra frames. You would just put a stop action at the top of the last frame. But you see this sort of thing done all the time in banner ads and Flash projects. If you're interested in doing more with type, unfortunately, and having it automated for you, which isn't a bad idea because you can see it takes a while to do all of this. just for one simple effect. What you can do is, let me go ahead and go online for a minute. And if you go to flashkit.com, for our interactive part of the class with Flash, it's a good place to go. And it's not so bad here either. No, is yours why is, mine's awfully slow.
Yeah.
Is yours that slow? Oh, it is. Then it's a school. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go to flashkit.com, KIT.com. It will be painfully slow to get there. There is a program called Swish, and it's a great tool because notice all the fancy animated text they have going. Well, they have a lot of built-in animations that are available. In the past, it's only been available for the PC, though. So all you would do is apply the effect. You would use that program, and it would give you a whole bunch of different effects that you could choose. Different types of animation that you could use for the text. And you would type in whatever text you want it to animate, and it animates it for you automatically. It's built in. It's very effective. And that's what probably most people use online. So that is there. And that's where you can go. And if you have a PC at home, I should check. Maybe it will finally be made for the Mac, because it would be worthwhile having if it is. For a long time it hasn't been. Yeah, let's find out, because it would be useful to have. Flashkit.com is also useful for a number of other things. Let's learn more about it. See what we have here. Download free trial. I want to see, before I download it, I want to find out what the...
Well, normally when you download it, it gives you a choice. If you want
Yeah.
to see. I think it's all.
Yeah, there we go. System requirements. It's still only made for the PC. Windows. Sorry. Yeah, Windows 2000, XP, and Vista. So it's still, unfortunately, only for that. However, as we'll see later on, there are lots of free tutorials that can be very helpful. We can either go to Adobe Flash Exchange to find some for templates. Some of them you have to purchase, some of them are free, some of them are, just that. The other, here at FlashKit, all of these are free. And what you would do, and we'll do this on another day, is you just type in a search. And you'll say, maybe I want an animated or scrolling menu. You know how you roll over a menu and it slides across and back and forth? Well, there might be a whole bunch of samples that have been uploaded here that you can use for free, and you can see how other people have programmed them. And you deconstruct them, and when you download them, you download the Flash file, and you have access to all the action script and everything. Sometimes the instructions are not very clear, but if you know enough Flash, you'll be able to deconstruct it, to break it apart, understand how they put it together. And then, as long as you give them credit, and that's usually done in the code, not on your project, but you just leave their name in the code, then they're free to use. They don't cost anything. The ones at Adobe Flash Exchange are a mix. Some of them cost, some of them don't. But there are some nifty things to look at, and we'll do that on another day. Okay? So I don't know if that was helpful to you, how to do that. Okay. Okie doke. So now we're at 9:30. So if you need to take a break, take a break. I will have this one up online too, and we'll